A lot of us are looking forward to pandemic policies coming to an end, like mask rules, restaurant capacities, all of that. But in Salem, this is what it looks like when pandemic protections for the homeless come to an end.
And they want me to go to the hospital after this, but I can't stop, you know what I mean? I gotta keep moving it, this is all I have.
So now that people can't camp in parks, where can they go? And it seems like prosecutors have a new strategy for tracking down protesters, relying on informants embedded in the crowd. But first, they say when one door closes, another one opens. Well, when a state representative refused to discuss video of him letting far-right demonstrators into the Capitol, it sent journalists digging for comment elsewhere. Enter a YouTube video and something called Operation Hall Pass.
And if you say, I'm at the west entrance, somebody might exit that door.
Here's the story.
Some late-breaking revelations on this Friday. Good evening. I'm Maggie Vespa. Dan is back here next week, but in the meantime, this is still the story. And on this show, your questions and your comments drive our coverage. Per usual, all the ways to contact us are at the bottom of your screen. So email us, reach out on social media, and always use that hashtag #HeyDan. So enough about us, though. Okay, let's get to that last element of our open that you just saw. It's a pretty big update on a story that we've been following for a while now. So a quick recap. This is video of State Representative Mike Neerman, a Republican, opening a side door of Oregon's Capitol building and letting far-right protesters into that building. It happened during a one-day special session in December. And the protesters, as you can see, didn't get very far inside because state troopers stopped this and they pushed them back out. Now, Neerman is facing criminal charges over this, including misconduct and trespassing charges, and he's also being investigated by the Oregon legislature. The question has always been, did Neerman do this on purpose, or did he just happen to walk out the door at that time? Well, this afternoon, OPB dug up a video of the representative talking to a group of people less than a week before he opened that door, and someone in the crowd asked him about the Capitol being closed to the public, and this was his response.
We're talking about setting up Operation Hall Pass, which I don't know anything about, and if you accuse me of knowing something about it, I'll deny it, but there would be some person's cell phone, which might be not. That was just random numbers that I spewed out. That's not anybody's actual cell phone. And if you say, I'm at the west entrance during the session and text to that number there, that somebody might exit that door while you're standing there. But I don't know anything about that. I don't have anything to do with that. And if I did, I wouldn't say that I did.
That was a live stream on YouTube at the time, by the way. You heard him mention the west entrance of the Capitol. That is the door that he was caught on camera opening to those protesters. And you also heard the representative giving a phone number, which we bleeped out, but I did call that number. There's video of me doing it. I left a voicemail. His outgoing message, by the way, said, it's Mike Neerman's number. A minute later, I got a text from that number and it said, hi, who is this? I responded, saying who I was. I'm with KGW. We're doing a story on the video, and we haven't heard back at this point. We did hear back, though, from Oregon's House Speaker, Tina Kotek, and she told us, quote, I've been clear since January that Representative Neerman should resign because he put every person in the Capitol in serious danger. Today's revelation that his actions were premeditated is incredibly disturbing. She goes on to say, I once again call for his resignation. If he does not immediately resign, I believe he should face expulsion from the legislature. We should also add the Marion County DA told OPB he is aware of the video and it's part of their investigation. Neerman will be back in court on June 21st for those criminal charges. We will certainly stay on top of all of this and, of course, keep you posted. All right, let's get to our big story on this Friday now. It's about pandemic protections put in place specifically for the homeless and what happens when those go away. Because basically, as vaccination rates rise and infection rates drop, officials say it will happen more and more. And in Salem, it's already started.
For more than a year, it's been open season on camping in Salem's parks. This week, that ended. Hundreds are packing up their things. They know city crews, flanked by park rangers and police, will arrive soon and clean up what's left. It happened Thursday at Wallace Marine Park. Colt Davies was desperate to move his camp.
It's just been so horrible, and they have us working so hard with time limits that medics had to come out here because of my health is really bad, and they want me to go to the hospital after this, but I can't stop. You know what I mean? I got to keep moving it. This is all I have.
What's wrong with your health?
I have liver failure and neuropathy, and it's just horrible. Not to be rude, I just got to finish it.
The city is doing this slowly, clearing parks section by section. The whole process will take months.
He goes, you saw the cops came and said, you saw the sign, right? You're going to move, right? And I was like, well, I'm trying.
A few hundred yards away, Carlene Bell says crews posted this sign on Wednesday. She's been frantically moving ever since and assumes her section will be cleared any day now.
I haven't slept in 2 days because I'm so stressed out. Who can sleep?
We never saw parks as being forever homes.
Gretchen Bennett is the city's liaison for all things housing. She says officials opened Salem's parks to camping when COVID infection rates were at their peak. It was the safest option. People could live outside and maintain social distance. But now widespread vaccinations have put Oregon on the brink of reopening. And as pandemic restrictions fall away, so will pandemic protections. Bennett says the city is clearing campers as shelter beds open up. She says advocates have been meeting with people in advance to help connect them to those resources.
We're trying to pay attention to what are the openings, what are people's needs, and to the extent we can, work with that, while also trying to restore some of the areas that we're needing to come into environmental compliance on at the parks.
But even if it happens gradually, this is a massive operation. The city estimates 571 people are living in Salem's parks. Local shelters could only take in a small fraction of that. So where will everyone go? Locals will tell you a lot of people used to camp in downtown Salem. This is video from before the pandemic. At that time, business owners were desperate. The camps, they said, scared customers off. Then COVID hit, and people feared the virus would run rampant through these camps. Letting campers move to the parks solved both problems. Business owners were thrilled.
The city, they come to help, keep clean, the downtown.
The city keeps it clean.
City keep clean, yeah.
This is video of downtown Salem now. The sidewalks are still clear for the most part. Bennett hopes to get as many people as possible into some sort of housing, but right now, this crisis is outpacing Salem's resources.
The reality is we don't have enough shelter beds and enough affordable housing.
Nevertheless, the city is clearing the parks. Wallace Marine Park was the first stop. Cascades Gateway Park will be the second. There you'll find a lot more RVs and cars. People here told us finding a spot to park those vehicles is nearly impossible.
We have a hell of a time just making ends meet for food every day.
Michelle Ryan asked to go on camera. She believes the city is risking a lawsuit forcing people out of parks when there aren't enough shelter beds, especially because anyone intent on staying put could be charged with a misdemeanor, though the city says they are determined to avoid that. Even still, Ryan can't believe this is happening.
Inhumane, unjust, unfair, not dignified. Just because we're homeless doesn't mean we don't have our rights.
So coming up on Monday, part 2 of our look at pandemic protections that are falling away. We'll dive into the resources available or lack thereof as Salem's homeless look for somewhere else to go. Again, that's on Monday here on The Story. At the same time, the other big story we've been following are the protests in Portland, of course, and today, Multnomah County District Attorney Mike Schmidt announced that 10 people are being charged with felony crimes after they allegedly participated in violent protests and riots. What's interesting is these are old cases. Some are several months old. Some of them are from December when people vandalized the Multnomah County Democratic headquarters, and other cases are from Inauguration Day when a group smashed windows and spray painted the Democratic Party of Oregon building. So all that in mind, I talked to Kyle Laboshi, who's been tracking a lot of these protest cases.
Okay, KGW's Kyle Laboshi joining us now. So Kyle, a lot of questions about this. I guess first and foremost, The DA now is bringing these cases forward for these crimes that, as we know, occurred months ago, right?
Right, old cases. In several, arrests were made, charges were then dismissed, only to be refiled now months later. And prosecutors have this discretion. What's interesting is in April, Portland police, they urged the DA's office to go back and revive some of these old protest cases. They were seeing some of the same people night after night after night, and that was problematic because they were committing crimes. Prosecutors have said, though, they're really going to go after the most serious cases. This is property damage, destruction of property, violence. And in those cases, they will bring charges, and that's what we've seen here.
Gotcha. And you and several other journalists have been reporting on this kind of surveillance, basically, that police have been using to bring these cases forward, make these arrests. Anything more that you can tell us just about that part of this story?
Yeah, I was looking through the court papers, and one of these cases actually does describe undercover surveillance. And I use quotes because that's the exact quote they use, undercover surveillance by police. We know through court papers, this is a tactic that police have been relying on to make arrests in several unrelated cases. There's been mention of confidential police informants, FBI surveillance units, and FBI officers in plain clothing in protest crowds or around protest crowds. Civil rights activists have some real concerns about this, though, that it may deter law-abiding citizens from participating in demonstrations and really kind of undermine the trust between police and the community.
All right. Well, it's obviously an ever-evolving story. So, Kyle, appreciate the update. Thank you.
All right, let's switch gears now and count some vaccines. Cue the giant numbers. According to the CDC, more than 2.33 million Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose of the COVID vaccine. And that works out to about 66.4% of the state's adult population. And the governor says we need to hit 70% and then the state can fully reopen. So we have about 127,000 more people that need to get their first dose. So tell all your friends. In Washington, the state is reporting 3.87 million people with at least their first dose. That's about 63% of the state's 16 and older population. That's the metric that Washington is using to determine when to fully reopen. They're also aiming for 70% of that demographic. But the governor says they will reopen by the end of the month, no matter what. Okay, I want to remind everyone now about our Hey Help campaign. This week, we are asking you to consider donating to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Portland Metro. They help support thousands of young people in our community through after school and summer programs. And if you want to donate, just head to that link at the bottom of your screen right now, kgw.com/heyhelp. And earlier this week, I talked to the CEO of the Portland Boys and Girls Clubs. His name is Terry Johnson. And we talked about how they've actually been helping the families they serve get the COVID vaccine.
And so we've been doing vaccination clinics around all of our club sites, more specifically, also targeting our Rockwood club site, which is out, bordering Gresham in the Rockwood community, where there's a high concentration of communities of color. Communities of color are in a lot of ways hesitant to take the vaccine because it requires a relational approach for people to build trust levels around the vaccine that came to market really quickly. And in a lot of ways, those communities have been impacted by institutionalized racism and systemic racism, right? And so a lot of our families have just had a lot of concerns and a lot of, doubts about the efficacy of the vaccine. And so, we have relationships with those families, and we've been able to educate those families about the benefits of taking the vaccine and providing safe spaces for them to come and get access to the vaccine. Before that, we were also doing testing as well. So there was an on-ramp to being able to build up to people feeling more comfortable about the vaccine, because they were also coming to us to get tested prior to that.
Yeah, they do a lot of amazing work. So here's another way to give. Just open the camera on your phone, like you're going to take a picture, and then you point it at that QR code on your screen. That'll take you to that link that we showed you that's still at the bottom of your screen there. We're just so convenient. And then that's where you can donate again to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Portland Metro. And by the way, we're calling this a micro donation drive. So if you're inclined, feel free to give any amount, no matter how small. It all adds up. And each week, you might have heard, we're highlighting a different cause. So if you know of a nonprofit or an organization in need, let us know with the hashtag HeyDan or email the story at kgw.com.
Right now, college athletes get paid nothing, even if they help bring in a bunch of money for their school. Well, some Oregon lawmakers want to change that.
This gives each and every student athlete an opportunity to create for themselves.
And it's been 11 years to the day since Kyran Horman disappeared from a Portland elementary school. We'll head into the KGW vault when the story continues.
A lot of questions and comments about the vaccine and about the Salem homeless story. Keep them coming. We always go through your tweets and your emails during the show. Sorry, my hand just did that. Keep them coming with the hashtag HeyDan on social media as well. All right, let's change gears. The legislative session in Salem is winding down, which means lawmakers are working to get a lot of bills passed, kind of rapid fire. And the Senate just passed one that would get student athletes paid. Now, you might have seen KGW's Mike Benner covered this story in some of our other shows last night and earlier today, but a quick recap here. Right now, student athletes can't get any money per NCAA rules, but this bill would let them get paid for the use of their name, their image, or their likeness through endorsement deals, merchandising agreements, and appearance fees. So to be clear, the bill would not let schools pay their athletes, but it lets them sign with brands and companies like the pros do and basically hire an agent. Okay, on that note, KGW's Orlando Sanchez joining me now very graciously. It's not like it's been a busy week for you.
I love it.
I appreciate it. So basically, let's just kind of walk through the points of this. First, what have you heard student athletes saying about why they think they should be paid?
Yeah, I think it's that simple.
Yeah.
I would like to be paid. I would
all
like to be compensated for the work that I'm doing. It also kind of shine some light on the coaches that are making, millions of dollars. You see these new buildings that are popping up. They would like a piece of that as well, especially those players that are in the money-making sports. And you're seeing the millions and billion-dollar TV deals that are done.
Yeah.
Or people that are wearing the jersey number that they wear when they're competing, and they're only buying those jerseys because you wear it. There's a reason why that number 20 Sabrina Ionescu jersey is flying off the shelves. It's not because it's an Oregon Ducks jersey. I'm sure that helps.
Yeah.
But also to have a player of that magnitude wearing that number helps to make a little more money for the NCAA and the college itself.
Copy that. It's as simple as it sounds, basically.
Totally.
So the NCAA, why have they said they're not going to do this in the past?
Well, Maggie, that money's got to come from somewhere,
It's
right?
also simple.
Yeah. So, they've got to be willing to give up that money, both the NCAA and the institutions, to be able to pay these schools. But there's also that big argument that people say, well, they are getting paid. That scholarship that they get, the cost of attendance that they get to pay for room and board, and also the education that comes along with after your 4 years, you're not in debt. So there's that big argument that comes along with it as well.
Yeah, and then what have you seen schools saying kind of caught in the middle of this in response to this argument that's laid out?
That makes it tough because you will have some speak up, like in Benner's piece on Oregon, saying, yeah, we would like to, but it's complicated. Like we need compliance. We need lawyers. We need people that make sure that this is an even playing field, not only statewide, but nationwide, as we try and, equalize recruiting. Because you could be in one state in Florida that says, well, you know what, this athlete could make 10 grand for wearing this pair of socks, or another, it is very complicated.
Yeah.
So they've got to come to an agreement on what is going to work for the entire country and not just in Oregon and things like that. That's going to cost money. It's going to take resources. This is going to be a while before they get this figured out.
Definitely. It's like the wants on either end are very simple. How this might work is incredibly complex.
Totally. And it's super interesting, too, even from the simple fact of, oh, well, maybe the athlete could make money just by sending out tweets or endorsing mom and pop shops. Like, who knows? Like, it's just crazy. But the time has come. I mean, this has been a huge issue for years now.
All right. Orlando Sanchez, valuable perspective. Thank you so much. All right. Also this week in Salem, Governor Brown signed a gun storage bill that has had a pretty contentious run through the legislature. You might have heard about it. And you might remember one of the bill's sponsors, Democratic Representative Rachel Prusak, was targeted by anti-Semitic flyers in Clackamas County over her support for this bill. Then on the Republican side, senators say they got death threats from constituents for not walking out and stopping the vote on the bill. They got death threats for voting against the bill. Someone also filed a recall petition for a Senate Republican leader, Fred Girard, again, for not leading a walkout. So here now is what this bill, which takes effect in September, actually does. It will require owners to keep their guns locked up when they're not using them. It will also ban concealed carry guns from the state capitol, and it will let public schools and colleges ban them from their campuses if they so choose. This bill was going to let cities and counties ban concealed carry guns from their own government buildings, but that got amended, and so that part was out. And something else that just passed, a bill that bans discrimination based on a person's hairstyle. It's known as the Crown Act, and we've talked about it on this show before. And basically, it prevents public schools and employers from discriminating against cultural hairstyles like braids and twists and locks. And supporters told us it's really common for Black women in particular to be denied jobs because of their hair, or for students to be asked to restrain or restyle their hair in some way.
It's important because children who are growing up now need to know that they can be themselves. They need to know that they are safe and that no one can come at them in a way in which they will lose their job just because of their hair.
That bill is headed to the governor's desk for a signature. Oregon will join once she signs it, which she says she will. They'll join 9 other states, including Washington and California, that have similar laws. Okay, let's go into the KGW vault now, because it has been 11 years to the day since 7-year-old Kyran Horman disappeared from Skyline Elementary School in Portland. He's never been found. Everybody knows the story, or a lot of people do anyway. Last year, we put together a piece looking at our coverage of the case over the past decade. Here's a little section of it from that first day that Kyran went missing.
Kyran was due home off the school bus at 3:45. He did not get off the bus.
And have they found any sign of him at all?
No, not that I've heard of any sign of him at this point.
7-year-old Kyran Horman was last seen after his stepmother, Terry Horman,
there's his picture,
drove him to school for one of the biggest days of the year, the school science fair.
The second grader at Skyline Elementary had worked hard on his project for the science fair.
This is a picture she took of the second grader with his project, the red-eyed tree frog.
After touring exhibits together, they say goodbye in the school hallway. She leaves for home. Kyran heads toward his classroom.
It's the last time anyone remembers seeing him.
Terry Horman posts photos of Kyran from the science fair on her Facebook page.
Kyran doesn't get off the school bus. His stepmom calls the school and learns the teacher had marked him absent.
This is devastating for the family, as you might guess, and for anybody that knows him. We just want to make sure he gets home safe.
All right, so searches for Kyran have happened on and off for years. We've covered a lot of those. And focus on his stepmom, Terry Horman, has only grown over the years. She's always denied involvement. She's never been charged. She did fail lie detector tests during the investigation. And in 2012, Kyran's biological mom sued Terry, claiming that she was indeed responsible for Kyran's disappearance. And that lawsuit, we should note, was later dropped. We also know a grand jury was hearing evidence in the case as recently as 2017. All right, so keep sending in your questions and your comments to us with that hashtag #HeyDan, and email and on social media. We want to know what you're thinking, what you want to see more of, less of, the questions that you have. I'm going to read some of them when we finish the story next. Couple quick comments. Kristen wrote in favor of the City of Salem having homeless campers leave the parks after the pandemic, or now that it's kind of winding down. And she wrote, these folks have, in her words, ruined city parks and public spaces, mentally ill/addicted, need mandatory incarceration and treatment. And then Jan wrote in asking about everybody who's camping under the freeway at Market Street Northeast. Jan, you might have heard us say we have a part 2 on Monday to this story. You will see exactly that scene in that story. It's part of our story, I'll say story again, on the resources that are available in the Salem area to the homeless. So So important question. You'll see it on Monday. Thank you all for watching the story on this Friday. The news at 6:30 with Laurel Porter is up next.